All right, well, let's call that meeting to order. I've already lost the agenda here somewhere, as all people from the slide. Around there. Yeah, the front sheet is no longer on the front.
Here,
Okay,
I'll send you.
there we go, call it good. Okay. All right, let's have the invitation and, oh crap, I didn't think about the prayer. All right. Nikki,
Yeah.
you're closer to God than I am. Can you,
Lord have mercy.
think you could begin with an invocation?
Let us bow our heads. Simply, Father, we thank you, Lord, for this opportunity, for this meeting once again, as we gather to discuss the business of Coast RTA, that you bless our CEO, you bless our staff, bless our board as we go together, come together to reason. And if we disagree, let it not be disagreeable. Let us come on one accord. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Good. I like it. If we disagree, let it not be. All right. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
And
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Boy, you're glad you're here. Roll call. Ms. Lynette, our social director. Keeping us more than sure.
You're on the veto desk.
Okay.
Catherine D'Angelo, Sid Blackwelder,
Here.
Daryl Ikoff, Debbie Gasquey, Wilbur James.
Yes.
Willie Jean Johnson. Here. Marvin King.
Here.
Joseph Lazara.
Here.
Rob Sheehan.
Here.
Bernard Silverman.
Here.
Ivory Wilson. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Wonderful. All right. Then let us proceed. We have a visitor, our former board member, Dick Twigg, is sitting here, looking very dapper in retirement state. And, we're very pleased to see that he's here. I don't think we have any other visitors. The rest of our guests look like they're all employees. I got that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So then let's move on. Nick, have you got any public comments to offer since you are the public today, sir?
No, just a concerned citizen.
Good. Well, concerned citizen. Nick, you haven't had a chance, but if you get a chance, walk out into the back bay there. We have taken to painting our own buses now. And so we've got a couple of Dallas buses that have been, do you have that slide there? Dallas buses that have been painted by our people. And they look really classy, you know, very much on a par that we were paying for. There's one that is in process out in the back area, and I'm very proud of all of our staff for doing that. That is courage above and beyond. Imagine that it's like the person who first ate
Alberta
an egg.
here, you put it into action.
Whoever first ate an egg, I would give them great credit for that. But Tom, I think that that's absolutely, you know, courageous to undertake that task. Represent, knowing that you had a standard to go against. It wasn't like, you know, you could just do it and say, well, this is it. But they just look terrific. And giving that sense of recognition. I drive around a lot about the county, and boy, I sure see the buses now. And, you know, that was not always the case up and down 7 and a couple of the other areas.
Are they all gonna be the same?
All gonna be the same?
We're gonna see 5 or
There-
6
We're gonna work towards them all being the same.
Yeah.
So I think
Or wrap.
we'll just, or wrapped. Thank you, Michelle. A few of those dart buses might get replaced before they get painted, but other than that, we want the entire fleet. We gotta figure out what we're gonna do with cutaways. You know, but I'd like to do something with them as well, but we'll see.
How many days,
My case,
does it
I'll
take to
put
do
the
it?
logo that I wanted to keep, I like the logo.
Well, it's a very classy operation, and
how many days does it take to do it?
Well, we're doing it in conjunction with engine replacements, so they're 3 or 4 weeks.
A little
If we-
longer than that, it's
We
about an
might-
8 to 10 week process to do the whole stock.
Prep and everything.
and that's the
There's a
whole
lot of
rehab
work.
from machinery and hardware on up to paint. Well, again, congratulations to you and your staff,
Thank
both for the bravery and for doing it. We've got employee recognition,
We do.
Mr. Villa.
I wanted to recognize these individuals. Everyone that you see here, and Ron, you're standing, right?
Get off your keister.
all contributed to a clean audit.
Wow.
And everywhere, inventory of our assets related to computer security and software, procurement, accounts payable, accounts receivable and payroll, maintenance. Where's Brandon? Brandon was supposed to come to this. Keeping inventory of our fuel, inventory of our parts, those are all assets. Counting cash and fair revenue, dealing with fare boxes and video equipment. And then Ron cashing the checks that I'm writing. I really appreciate it. You guys did a great job this year, and I'm really proud that we have a clean audit.
And let's not forget our general manager.
Yeah.
But it might be worth having somebody dig into the archives to find out, this is the first clean audit in how long?
Ever.
And, well,
Yeah, I don't
that
I've
would
been
be
around
worth,
that 2008.
that would be worth documenting, and, a commentary in the minutes of the meeting. That's a huge, step forward.
Yeah, it is.
I will say it starts from the top. I think it starts from the top, with leadership that bring in the right people. I do commend Brian, I support him 100% his leadership, but he got good people, that know what they're doing, and he keeps, make sure they do their job, and we just blessed to have these guys. I mean, we just blessed.
I'm looking at a lot of the faces here, they've been here for a while, so keeping the good people
Yeah,
and,
it's good.
supporting the good people is perhaps as important as bringing in, or maybe more important than all exceptions to the new people, but.
One reason I'm still, I will say this much, one reason I'm still on this board, because I like what is being done under the new administration. I like what's happening. Everybody know who I am, I'm a controversial person, that's irregardless of, but the point I'm gonna try to make is that I believe in what this company, and I'll do whatever it takes to make it right, and I think we need, like I said, give credit to the people, let them know that, thank you and walk up, we really do appreciate it. And this board, and I know really appreciate, particularly the board chair, I speak for him, but since I've been in Myrtle Beach, I can't say I've been more proud of this company now than ever. I mean, when I see the buses ride by, I think about the work that's been done since his tenure. So when I see Coast go by, I see a whole new thing there, so people behind it. So I'm proud of it.
I would like to express my gratitude too. I've been doing this over 30 years, and it's the first time I not only got a fully no findings audit, but no comment as well. That
Wow.
is definitely the gold standard. It's very rare. I do appreciate the staff knocking themselves out to do that, and I think we've all learned a lot together, in terms of grant management and inventory management and these sorts of things, and month-end closing, so just as smooth as can be every month now. We've got it down to about a 3-day process, so everybody's done a fantastic job in achieving this. So I do, again, thank you all.
And Brandon, by name, you were named as well as Brian went through the list, because it's not just the accounting people, it's the people who are basically doing all the quality control at all levels of the agency.
And handling assets, like fuel and parts, which is what Brandon takes care of us on a monthly basis on.
I remember coming here when parts was stuff in boxes on shelves, and there was more inventory in old parts that no one could use
And they are-
than there was in parts needed.
Every bit as important as cash.
Yeah.
So, as is fuel. So, I really appreciate it, y'all. Thank you so much.
Mr. Board, I'm not the chair, but would it be nice if we can all shake these hands in?
Yeah.
We all, the board, can we all shake their hands?
Come around. Okay.
I'm thinking about, would it follow you?
There you go.
And we had,
I think we need to shake their hands.
just so everybody, we had Pam as well here because she's handling HR and also
I think we need to
contributing.
shake their hands, because that's,
Am I going somewhere?
Miss Pam, we're just very happy at the
I'm
clean
so proud of
audit.
them, man, that's a blessing.
That is great. I mean, if they have no comments, it's crazy. Very good.
Love you guys.
can leave if you want.
That's a blessing.
Careful of the water.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Brian, don't be so cruel, man.
Brandon, hey,
Mr. Silverman.
Berta,
Thank you.
Brown, thank you. Going to Parks, good job, my friend. Oh, and Twig. Twig,
There you go. That's really good. I mean, as Ron said, an auditor's job is to find something. And if they couldn't find anything, and couldn't even make a comment,
Shake their hand, man. That's
they spend weeks just trying to find something.
We have an agenda, and I'm going to ask you to take a look at it, and if you are willing, I'd entertain a motion to approve the
I'll
agenda.
make a motion.
second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, approval of the agenda passes. Mr. Wilson will be very happy that I'm back into Robert's Rules of Order where I'm announcing the motion as we proceed. We haven't had long. And we got a recommendation to, or a motion to approve the minutes from the February meeting.
So move.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the February meeting. Any comments? Any edits? Anybody read them?
Scan them.
You're okay? Absent any comments? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Okay. The minutes have been approved. Service PAC committee report might be very brief because we did not have a service PAC committee meeting, but believe Gene, we always love hearing from you nonetheless. If you've
We'll
got,
hear from Brian. Good morning.
Well,
If there's anything.
yeah, I don't know that we have anything to report. I do want to say that for the April 11th meeting, we will have some information on what's going on with the entertainment shuttle for the summer. And then we also want to continue the conversation about the riders' code of conduct. So it'll be a pretty full agenda.
and Brian,
Is there
did you
anything else?
get a survey done? I'm sorry, did I
Excuse me?
hear that there was a survey done on riders recently?
Yeah, we can give you a report on Loris.
At the PAC meeting, would be great.
Yep.
Okay. What about signs?
In signage?
Yeah.
Bernie, did you have a question?
I had two. One was about signage, an update on signage, and along with that, the description that they should have been done by March 18th of this month. There should be a reviewing transit and traffic model data with SCDOT staff and Walkmore Regional COG staff. So are they there now?
Yeah, I'll have to check. I don't know. I know they've been collecting their data. They've been out on the system.
Do you have comments to include in your manager's report on signage?
Not so much as an update
Okay.
on where they are. I just had a couple things about some conversations we've had with planning partners.
Okay,
So
so
that's their goal for this month.
Okay, I'll check and see and send an email.
Kurt was here yesterday,
Was he?
yeah, and he said they've been working and will be back, I think he said next week as well.
Well, and Brian, there's one thing we've come to know and love about you is that you are very ambitious in giving your target dates. And,
Well, those were
Those are their
e-commerce
dates.
target dates.
Yeah.
They weren't mine.
You're very
so-
ambitious in accepting their target dates. I think we all wanted to hear that, but that's a big job. So let's get an update on that at the April meeting.
Well, and I'll
Starting the service pack.
send out an email if I hear from them.
Yeah, and I understand, I mean, there's delays and there's changes and there's modifications, but this is their report, and,
I would suspect, given what I know about the regional model, there's not gonna be a whole lot of information gleaned from
Yeah,
that process.
yeah.
It's a highway model, so.
yeah, no, I agree. Now, they've got some things for 4, but I'll leave them there, and they know what they've got. And how about an update on the enunciation? Some of the routes are really doing great.
Yeah, that I do have in my manager's
Okay.
report. Okay. But I mean, I'll just give it now. I mean, it's, we're finishing up Route 16. Otherwise, the only other issue I've heard is that there's, we may wanna look at the timing of actually when those enunciations are done. A A lot of them get pretty late.
Yeah, they're
Coming
they're
into the
a block
stop.
or two late, yeah.
So we're working on smoothing that out, but.
And how about number 7? I haven't heard that one yet, or number 1. Those are the routes I travel the most. I haven't heard the enunciations there.
We've been
10 to
running
15
one
north.
with a cutaway.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't have that capability in the cutaways yet.
okay.
Um,
Occasionally it'd be a.
but
regular
7 ought to
bus.
be running. I'll check on 7.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed sometimes that it just turns so low you can't even hear it.
That's not good.
No.
You think that's a phenomenon that the driver could also not hear it, or is the driver thinking it's working because it can be heard and it just doesn't go far enough back?
I'm not sure, I was sitting fairly close, so I didn't want to, because we had a full bus, so I wasn't gonna try to bring it up in the
Okay.
issue.
What number was that?
That was 5,700 last week,
No, what route?
15 south.
Yeah. Well, and the drivers might not even hear it anymore, it's like background noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
That's
is,
why
it's
I
one of
asked the
those that if
question.
you don't, because you're talking and you're doing too, so. The other thing that one of the drivers also brought up was an idea of, next stop.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Especially
really.
with J1s and the fact that we've got over 3,000 coming in, so that they realize,
Right, that's good.
so that if we can recraft it to say that.
I totally agree that we should try to do that. I think we'll have to reduce the number of announced stops to do it. And so we'll.
That might come along with the signage.
Yeah, go along with
program.
sign.
Does the driver do that, or?
No,
It's not automatic.
Automatic?
It's a very good system. It's a British
They
lady.
just don't understand where they have to go and that kind of thing, so that can tell them, hey, you know, because they try to explain as drivers, you need to get off the Broadway and go across the street or whatever, so that's what they do.
Brian, the next GSAG meeting that is in April, that's on a Friday, and I've got to do my drive to Charleston on that, so if you've got someone that can represent me at that
Let's
meeting,
ask Daryl.
down in Surfside.
It should be a board member.
Okay.
I think that's May 4th, I have that
I
down.
thought it was April, but I got the notice and my iPad just died.
Yeah.
We'll
Could you check on
figure out what that is and then get,
Bless Daryl, okay.
Yeah, Daryl, I can do it if Daryl can, if I can get down there, and Grace usually will drive me down.
okay,
But Daryl would be the one.
yeah,
Okay,
so we'll ask.
all right. Anything else for service PAC?
So on the agenda, I have entertainment shuttle, Loris Bucksport update, signage and code of conduct. And, yeah, so that'll be a plenty, that'll be plenty. Yeah, that's the Loris Bucksport.
Okay. Mr. Marvin, Dr. Marvin, you are back on.
All right, it's been so long since our meeting, so I'm not sure if I remember everything, but I'll do my best.
Well, you're working with Miss Lily Jean then.
Report it if you need it.
Exactly. But our meeting, we talked about a few salient pieces of our February financials, and I think the 3 top that came out, we talked a little bit about our maintenance. So if you're looking at page 2, where you have most of your operating expenses, the salaries, again, somewhat volatile, coming in line. I think one of the main ones that we discussed was our maintenance salaries, which I think at this point have settled down, unfortunately settled down under budget, or I should say over budget, sorry, at 24,000. So I think we're gonna be there for the foreseeable future. So again, with our budget revision that we may have coming up, it's one of the items we'll address and bring that back in line.
Yeah, but it should not get worse.
Right.
It should get a little better, but it'll still be pretty close to 20,000 at this budget.
So if we can make that adjustment, we'll be on budget there. The next item then was our vehicle maintenance, and as you noticed, we were significantly over budget there. The key is that beautiful new bus that we saw earlier, that 5702 bus.
That hit the system.
Yeah, so that really pushed us over budget there. Brian, do you think that's something that we will recoup over the remaining of the year?
Well,
or is-
I mean, it doesn't take any of our normal local match to do that expenditure. And we have those in our budget. We have like 4 of those in our budget. Oh, it must be 3. It's 3 of those. So I think that it'll smooth out. It's just when it hits, it's not really covered in our skewing of,
Sure.
you know, the seasonal budget.
Right. Okay.
So I think it should be okay. We spent a little more on that than we expected, so we may need to address that in the budget revision.
If we have to hire somebody to
Completely in-house,
just strictly in-house.
completely in-house.
That's awesome.
And we even set up so we could bill the labor to the county for that work. So it's complete.
really fantastic from a point of view of effective
Yeah.
utilization of our own people.
Absolutely.
It also increases their skill level
Sure.
to a point that, that they become as competitive as they want to be in doing that kind of rehab work.
And we're able to do transmission work or
Well, I mean, it varies. Sometimes we'll send a transmission out. I mean, you get into the inner workings of a transmission, so you might send that part out, but like a complete engine overhaul is done in-house.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we're, and it's
And outside, and a lot of it's outside, in the weather.
And that might change a little bit when we get to more Cummins engines into our fleet. These Detroit diesels are set up for doing reworking as long as the engine block is not compromised. You can put the parts back in it. It's set up as a reworkable engine. The Cummins are really more of a disposable type of engine. You don't really do an engine rework on one of those. You just go and replace an engine. So we have had one of those.
Electronics on the newer ones.
That too, but just the mechanical piece of it, you go buy another. It's cheaper to go buy another engine and stick it in there rather than trying to rework it. And so like we do have one of the, like the Eldorados are Cummins engines, and we've had one of those replaced recently, and we sent that to Cummins to do it. So it's a mix and match.
Yeah.
And so from
Brian,
finance
I can just speak for myself on this, but I would be supportive of some type of recognition bonus or something. Repainting the buses yourself is pretty much thinking out of the box that will have enormous returns for us. Rehabbing the engines and the transmissions and that sort of thing, we've sort of done that before, but certainly if you were to say, well, I don't want to wait till the end of the year because raises may not be there in light of the short-term financial forecast, but a bonus at any time in recognition for truly thinking outside the box, whether it be the audit going through so successfully or this passage. I would just encourage you to consider that as a possibility.
Okay.
You're the GM and those are decisions you make, but it's certainly something that I think the rest of us would be supportive.
The only thing that bothers me is how can we afford the time for a person to be pulled off of what they're doing usually to do that?
Well, the primary person who's doing our body work is Thor Hefner, and he's like he'll open in the mornings sometimes, so he's sort of doing both, but it's
Remember,
just
we have more new buses too. We have more new buses and less day-to-day maintenance of
Probably less.
keeping,
Tom has done a pretty good job of working through it, and that's another reason why it takes 6 to 8 weeks is because he's not full time on it
Right.
necessarily. And he's not really working with the paint booth and things like that. So we're hanging plastic back in there, and so he's doing some of that on off hours and things like that. So it's we just tried it, and I mean I think this was the first one, so there's a lot of learning curve there in terms of how he's pulling off the whole operation.
Yeah.
And the next one will be a little bit more efficient, and the one after that will be a little bit more efficient.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's, if we just sent that bus out for painting, the painting alone would have been 25,000. And so we're doing way better than that overall, so.
It's
That's
even
why I
more
think this
impressive
is
that you
really
got money
helpful.
back to offset it from.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is basically a refurb, so that was the little change in the contract with the county to allow us to do that. So I got, for a $75,000 job, we got 60,000 from the feds and 15,000 from the county.
I think that maintenance department, I'm not thinking that it's an easier job for them, but I think that they're doing more preventative maintenance, and I don't see the crews out there racing around at the transfer center and, the car, a bus is stuck, car drives up, they're under their fiddling. And I think that spare bus at the transfer center probably saved them a
It's
lot
been
of time.
huge.
I don't see the tow trucks hauling our buses in.
Yeah,
the way
I think we've just done a
we
good
did.
job.
There's
Yeah, I've
some
been-
money for towing.
I've been averaging about $200 with squeakies per month, and that's one tow, that's one tow.
Yeah, so that's good. A lot of miles we drive.
Well, I just encourage you to figure out a way to acknowledge even beyond what we have here. And I'm looking ahead, I don't anticipate large races coming while we get into the new fiscal cycle here. We can have that discussion.
Brian, do you charge you by the squeaky, by the mile, or like if you're a certain location, or you charge by the distance?
We have a standard rate, so.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, if he's gotta go down to Georgetown, it's like $350. If he,
Yeah, I saw one the other day.
something in Horry County, it's
It might have
like
been
$175 or something.
Paula's Island or somewhere I passed one, I think he had a problem in last week or something.
It happens.
I mean, but in a case like that, do you send another bus to pick people up or what?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think you probably did, because I didn't see anybody on the bus, but.
And that's the big advantage of having that spare bus in Myrtle Beach.
Right.
So we're much
Take
more
off,
reactive.
take off and go, yeah. That was a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Final note regarding finance. Think about from a scheduling point of view, since everybody is as interested in finance as they are, how frequently there's more people here than, why don't you think about putting finance before the full board meeting on a regular basis? I mean,
That's up to y'all.
In the fall, it's gonna
Yeah.
screw him up.
Well, it's up to Marvin, who just had a thought.
Yeah, and I think we could talk to the committee, see how it goes. It makes their day a little bit longer, so.
Well, just looking at transportation for issues like Joe and others, this is, and Miss Lily Jean, you know, there's a consensus that this is an important meeting.
I was gonna, we have to look at our track record on how many finance committee meetings have only lasted an hour. I don't know that we
There's an
have,
incentive to
we
that.
don't have a track record on those either.
Mostly in me shutting up, but okay.
It takes a while to make sausage sometimes.
Moving on to general
Thank you.
manager's report. I'm sorry.
But I don't think he's done
Yeah,
yet.
we're
I don't think he's done
not
yet.
quite done.
Keep going, Marvin, I'm sorry.
I'll make it quick. So, next piece was office supplies. We had a little bit of a discussion there, not much there. It was a little bit of a blip, if you noticed, right?
Well, no, it's the same issue we've had in the past where we have capital items hitting the operating budget. And Ron and I need to come up with a way to kind of figure that out. But we purchased cloud space, Ron,
Correct,
and that's basically
because
the
all
bulk
our
of it.
servers are backed up on the cloud, we just needed more space to back up all the data, so we had to buy more space.
That wouldn't be a
So
capital
it's all
item.
virtual now.
It's a capital item to purchase basically reserve space?
Well, what it is we have a certain amount of the 5307
Yeah.
grant. The FTA calls it capital, it's kind of a deviation from GAAP, but we're allowed to charge a lot of hardware, software, smaller items, that virtual cloud being one, things like the Sage module, maintenance, and those types of items. We can charge to that, which is better than just going with the indirect cost rate, because they get reimbursed at 80%.
Yeah.
So we've been, Brian's been plugging 60,000 or so into the budget every year with 5307. The difference, switching gears, the difference with the capital repairs is if we're gonna do a large-scale capital repair on a newer bus, it's gonna extend the useful life, then that has to be in his capital budget as opposed to his preventative maintenance budget. So it just works better for us on these older Dallas buses. If we go the preventative maintenance route, especially with that county picking up the other 20% or whatever, we can easily get 100% reimbursement, but justify not extending the useful life of a 12 or 15-year-old bus. So yeah, those are the kind of two things we've been playing with. But if he were to put those capital rebuilds into his budget, we'd have to do an amendment, jump through a bunch of hoops. So that's part of the reasoning and why we're doing what we're doing with those repairs.
Ron, I've got to tell you, and I think the members of the board, including Nick, who have been here a lot longer than I am, I try to think back to 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, when I came on the board. I would not have gotten an answer to that question that I understood at that time. I simply would not have carried the sense of confidence and completion and full understanding and the ability to communicate it back out. So I want to thank you for that answer. I think it's indicative of how Brian responds. It's indicative of the major step up
He's
that the
been
staff
drinking from a
have
fire
taken.
hose too, so.
You know, you've gone from a fire hose to a serving spoon, and what's on the serving spoon is in fact understandable. It's an amazing change.
I think if we did anything more to the bus than what we're doing, we'd probably have to go the capital route and extend the useful life.
I understand.
Ron is spot on with that.
Yeah, perfect.
We're-
All right, so our next item then was the interest expense, which we asked Ron to pull out and put in a separate line item at our last board meeting. So he did that, and so you'll notice there, clearly we never had that budget item. So that, again, as we consider our revision, we're gonna have to obviously think about what that number looks like for the year, and put an actual year-to-date.
So that makes it more transparent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's
The possibility of getting money from the state without adding to that interest line is also pretty impressive going forward.
So clearly it's over budget because we never had a budget in the first place. So once we figure out what that number should look like, clearly
We'll get
you
that
won't see
into a
red,
revision.
but we will still be able to track it. So that's
See,
interesting.
what we've learned in the process too will help with the FY19 budget, because we'll be sure to incorporate any of those non-capitalizable rebuilds in there. So hopefully we won't have, a mid-year rebudget just due to reasons like that. We're getting smarter as we go along.
Okay, Rod, you can sit down now.
I'm sorry, were you still standing?
I just realized you might still be standing. When Ryan says stand up, I just, I would be up.
Starting to quiver, so.
More of a,
So obviously that's related to our Conway National loan. And so that brings up the idea of our cash and where our cash balance is. So we again discussed a little bit of where that looks, what that looks like. And so if you flip, let's see, the pages 8 and 8A, you can see the numbers look okay here for the time span that we're looking here through the end of May. So no, good thing is no negatives, right? But we do get somewhat low in a few circumstances. But I think our real target date of concern is more along the summer months. So as we get into the end of June, July, is that right?
Yeah, it happens pretty quickly in June. So we've got to, it goes negative in June right now. So we got to figure out ways to figure that out. We have time to deal with it. I kind of just want to reiterate what we talked about this morning, in that the change in funding mechanism, how the county is going to be funding us, really represents two budget hits. One is basically a $263,000 reduction in local funds for FY18 for us, because we're not getting that first quarter payment in July from them. And then for FY19, it represents about a $500,000, well, it's only going to be a $500,000 increase, I guess is a better way of putting it, because we're only going to see 3/4 of the road use fee in our FY19. The October payment, the January payment, April payment, and then July. So we will see it actually.
so I've got a
October,
question.
January, April, July. So we will see for. So that's a good thing.
As you were saying that, it just occurred to me, if there's a 216,000 shortfall in local payment, and we are in fact going to go to the bank, would the county consider going to the bank, giving us that money? We could count it as local payment, we could repay it, but it would help us in the way these dollars split.
Well, I think,
And I don't think I'm talking anything illegal, but if you're trying to maximize your local representation in your budget, if we go to the bank and take it out, we don't get to count it that way. If it is given to us,
well, sure we do. It's kind of local match.
oh, we could.
Yeah, it's local funds.
Okay, my lack of clarity on it.
Yeah, no, what I'm hopeful to do is resolve the FY18 portion of it with some help from the state.
Mhm.
And then moving forward, because we are losing that quarterly payment, get some help from the bank on that side of the house. And I think we will need to do both.
Nick, what we were saying in the first meeting is that the money that we're currently repaying the state on the shelters, if we have an option to extend that repayment
Which
in
is essentially a
return-
reduction.
as a temporary reduction and get that cash from the state, it would come without interest on it, and it would be a part of our normal process of putting that money aside to make that payment anyway. So it's entirely possible that half of this two-part issue can be carried out through that kind of a mechanism that would then carry us a number of years more in, quote, repaying the shelter, but really just making that payment to the state. Have I done a reasonable job of describing that?
Yep.
So the story there is that we will probably be looking at another resolution to borrow more funds from the bank coming soon.
And obviously, the expense associated with that would be incorporated in the budget.
And predictable, well, that's.
Right.
Yeah.
So my understanding is the county has decreased.
No, they've increased, but they have to collect the road use fee before they can distribute it. So we gotta go, and they do, their policy is to do quarterly payments. And so they have to collect July, August, and September and give it to us in October.
When we ordinarily would get it in July.
You know, when it's discretionary funds, they're able to give us a check in July.
This is a result of going from the general fund to the car tax fund.
So, but overall, it's an increase of $1 million. So they're going from $1 million to $2 million.
And the other thing Brian pointed out, I think before you came, but I could be wrong, is that the amount that comes from the car tax, it looks like it's going up because of the increase in cars, but it's not quite as predictable as a fixed dollar amount every quarter was. So one reason why you went this route is to try to maximize the gain from that, but you're also living with a little bit of
Uncertainty.
uncertainty.
Yeah, so it's not gonna be the same amount every quarter because it's based on their collections. So depending on how many car registrations happen in July, August, September, that will dictate what we get in October.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up to me because somebody was sending me a text, wondering why the county would take money from it. I was like, I didn't know they were taking money from it.
Well,
And if I don't know something, I'm not gonna try to answer it.
yeah, the way it worked is by virtue of moving us over to the road use fee and dedicating fund to us, they took away the discretionary money. But the net increase for us is $1 million over what they've been giving us. So we're going from $1 million to $2 million, and they're using the discretionary funds to support some expenses in police force.
Another reason to thank the county auditor for her massive attention to getting cars registered.
Yeah, we can do that.
Even driving around to the schoolyards to make sure
Yeah.
that people are dropping
She's
their
been
kids
doing it
off.
ever since she's been in office.
I have great admiration for that
Yeah,
woman.
just doing more now than ever.
Yeah, that's right.
Marvin, anything else?
So not from our financials, we did have a quick summary discussion about our funding update and our audit report, but I think we figured we would push it into this meeting and get a little deeper discussion on it.
All right, any other questions for Marvin? Moving to general manager's report. General manager, you're on.
Okay, a few things here, some of which we've already talked about. We do have two new cutaways coming from a grant that we got from GSATs last year, which is 5310 funding. It's about $120,000 outlay. Obviously, the local match comes from the county vehicle fund. So we should be getting those delivered here in the next 2 weeks. We are working out the cash side of that, but they replace 2 remaining Goshen vehicles. So our paratransit fleet will be 7 of these relatively new cutaways in those 2 vehicles that we got from state surplus. So next on the list will be, we're looking at a smaller vehicle type. They're called transits. It's on a Ford chassis. They're like 9-passenger vehicles, and we're going to try to get 2 of those to replace the the,
The G7?
no, the state surplus vehicles. And so, and that should be in the next 6 months or so. So that we'll have a completely flipped, yep.
No wheelchair can get in them?
Oh, yeah, they have one wheelchair position, but given our paratransit productivity, or passenger per hour, basically, I think it, you know, it might save a little bit on fuel and we just want to try them out. So it's a 5 or 6 year commitment. But 2 full-size cutaways happening here in a couple weeks.
Of that $1 million in capital that the county gave us, how much of that is left?
500,000, 520, something like that.
And there's no limit on that, or no time limit?
Well, I do want to try to obligate those funds, because the way that contract is written, it sunsets on June 30th, and there is some risk that we lose it. I don't know that we would necessarily, but there is new bus facilities, grant money coming out, there's an infrastructure,
The 4 buses you want to buy?
and I'm gonna try to do 4 buses, and then we'll obligate the remaining amount of that here before June 30th, hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
solid.
and that money is, the money coming from the feds is ideal for a new facility.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that there will be a second round of that, and we will have, you know, some information on a shovel-ready project to put into that, so we'll see how that goes.
Are we getting any feedback from the county about getting property for us?
That really hasn't come up here recently just because of the funding stuff, but that's something that we'll need to look at. I was at the GM summit that I went to and had tasked talking to a number of consulting firms about this project that we want to let this summer, which I think we talked about it already, but I'll go over it real quick again. There's 800,000 sitting at FTA. I would like to use some money that's hopefully going to be coming up in the Georgetown budget to match those dollars. So we're looking at $1 million of funding to do essentially 4 site evaluations, 1 for maintenance facility and 3 for passenger facilities, 1 in Myrtle Beach, 1 here in Conway, which has recently been in the news, and 1 in Georgetown. And then those 3 passenger facilities will need to have a Title VI assessment. Once we pick a general location, that's a requirement under FTA, so we get those done, those 3 done. And then we need to do due diligence on this site, which is doing an environmental assessment. Although I like to say the questions that we don't want to know the answer to. But we need to have those answers if we're ever going to sell this property. So we'll get that done, and then we'll get as far down design, well, we'll get all the programming done for each of those facilities, meaning what functions will occur in each of those facilities. So, you know, obviously we need maintenance somewhere, we need passenger handling, and other locations, admin could go into any one of those locations. So we'll get those, try to get those answers down on paper, and then we'll get as far down design as possible for that. So this is probably a year, 18 months project, but we'll send all of that out in one fell swoop, have a team come in and take care of all that. And what that will generate for us is a series of what are called shovel-ready projects, which you have to have as much of your design done as you can before you really become eligible for these federal infrastructure grants.
Is it time for us to get on Tom Rice's radar, or are you there? Are we sending him our plans and information? He'll be instrumental when it starts coming down.
Possibly. I think we have a little bit of time on that. It'll be interesting to see. I think they've obligated like 1.5 billion.
That's what Darryl said in the note.
Yeah. So that's going to be multiple funding rounds, and so I'll be interested to see what round 1 looks like. We'll put in our bus grant. And see if that flies, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of projects are funded through that, since it's really a different administration since from the old Tiger stuff.
Well, we'll need Tom Rice.
And so that'll help us strategically go after set round 2 for a facility.
Point of interest, since we're on the subject, I think Mr. Rizal brought the issue up about the county property. I read an article that the county, Randy Webster wants to build a emergency management center. But the county don't want to do it because they don't have the funding and they all to go outside that. That's what they claim anyway. So I know it's probably gonna be something that's gonna be difficult for them to try to.
I'll talk to Randy about what he's contemplating.
But I just read that article. Now also, I don't know what relationship or how things can be done. The old school district office here in Conway, there's nobody in that office over there. I mean, that old big old school building over there.
Right.
I
don't
think
know
the
what-
city has that now.
Huh?
Are you talking about the one behind Whitmore?
Yeah. I mean, it's blocked off. I mean, it's an old building, I mean, but that's property. I don't know what they're gonna do with it, but it's something to think about down the road. I mean, you think, I just passed by the yesterday, I said, that's vacant property there, man. That'd be a nice place for a bus company over there, something over there, but I just
It's in
thought
bad
about
shape,
that.
though.
Yeah, it would, yeah.
I just thought about it. I mean, I just passed by it yesterday. There wasn't nothing there. I mean, it's closed out and everything.
We're gonna redo the math as it relates to where the optimal site is, but I still stand by the fact that I think our maintenance facility needs to be closer to the coast.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
that doesn't rule
But I mean,
out, that
follow a
doesn't rule out
maintenance shop or
anything.
something. Let me come off the high horse here as far as my mind is concerned. Would you like to have, since school district got, they make this office on 501. And this is, I'm just talking in general. You'll make this shop over here in Conway and then an office in Myrtle Beach. I'm just throwing something out. Would that be?
That's possible. I mean, we're gonna
You don't have to be
start
in the
that
same
process
location. You
over.
have some maintenance someplace else, and then
Right. But having maintenance closer to the coast
Be
is
a
gonna
lot-
help us more, be
be a-
even
okay.
more
Less
responsive
miles.
I got you.
to service issues and those types of things, and reduce debt.
What I'm talking about, I'll leave here. I'm gonna meet with B and C, so I might come up with something.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is as you talk to the newspapers, continue to reinforce that there is still going to be a service center in Conway. Because Brian and I have talked about this on the phone. Writers of articles don't get to choose their headlines. That's up to the editor, and so you can't be faulted for what looks like a headline that looks like you're headed out of town the same way that Cleveland,
Yeah,
Browns
we're
headed
moving
up
to Baltimore.
or something. But it is, I do think the Conway people who have come to recognize this as a service center will periodically need that reinforcement.
Right.
While you're doing God's work of getting
Well,
the
and-
maintenance shop moved.
And the conversation with the city of Conway has gone really well, because they have lots of plans for downtown. And it's really possible that we could kind of work with them and bring some federal money to the table for help with the parking deck, and then use the first floor of the parking deck as our passenger facility, somewhere closer to the riverfront or downtown. And I made a point, with all of them, that we need to maintain our presence in Conway as it relates to that. Right now, we have 4 buses that meet here on 3 times a day, and we don't have enough space. We're taking up part of the bank. And so there's lots of variables there, but I think at least the relationships with the cities, Myrtle Beach too, they still have some designs on doing something with a super block. And it makes a whole lot of sense for us to keep our passenger facility down in that area. And so we become partners with those developments as they move forward, so.
Do you get positive vibes when you talk about joining the super block? To me, I'm so suspicious about what it's really going to be.
Well,
It's been on and off.
Yeah, I mean, it has changed, and obviously it's changed, but they have some developers who have some interest. And as long as I maintain the at least from my perspective, we don't want to catalyze development with a bus.
Yeah.
We want to fit a bus facility into whatever development's going to happen.
Well, the theater there and whatnot,
Yeah, I
you
mean-
could see reason to be moving people, not necessarily maintenance of your equipment.
And I really think that passenger facility needs to have like a daycare center. So bring in some functions in there that would really help our ridership, as well as support what's going on. You're putting a children's museum right there, that there's a nexus there. And
I
so,
always give you my funny look when I hear about the child care center there, but that's all right.
Actually makes sense.
Sit
that
down.
sat very well with city officials.
Let me throw something at you right quick, because I think it's very, very important because who I relate to in this community as far as the leadership, B and C, like I said, and I also said, I'm meeting them this morning when I leave here. Would you be interested in sitting down with them?
Well, I do need,
Because I mean, I put a
Mr.
bug in the ear or something.
Howley?
but-
He's on my list, the manager of Broadway at the Beach.
Yeah.
Well, Jim Apple's the BNC.
No, yeah, I'm meeting with him today. Well, I mean, I say that for because, it's who you know. I mean, if I can go there and say, hey, look, you know, we need some space over here. But they own a lot of property over there, man. And they got a lot of stuff that inside the city. I mean,
Yeah.
outside the city. So, if you guys want to say something to them, mention something to them, you can meet with them, set up something, you can call you or whatever.
Yeah, I think I'm,
If you want to. Now, you don't have to. I'm just throwing it out there because I'm gonna talk with him if you wanna,
who are you talking about?
Jim Apple.
Yeah.
And I say that because I would, if that's the case, I can try to push it. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I know a lot of board members on D
I
and
think I
C.
can get there. I can call him
Because they,
and try to catch up with him.
but I can't push it for you, I mean, but you talk to them, then we'll see what happens from there, because they got a lot of property right there close to the old mall, and plus they get stuff all around them, man, and stuff that they can develop for you and make it work. But anyway, that's probably the most feasible way to get inside Murphy Beach, to get to them guys.
Well, all of that needs to happen at some
Yeah, you
point.
gotta get
so
with them, and then,
we're working on that.
You
One
got
other
your
thing
plan
about
still
the
to buy
convoy-
your forklift?
Yeah, that's next on the list.
Okay.
One other thing about the Conway Terminal, and I'm not here all hours, but I'm often here at 7. And it has changed from, a few people wandering around, getting on a bus, to a very active hub here at 7. There's a lot of people, there's 3 buses. I don't know really how many people are on that Loris bus, but when I get on the express bus, it's got a lot of people on it already, and I get on off the 1. And so I don't know where they're coming from, but there are a lot of people here at 7 o'clock in the
Yep.
morning now.
Yep.
So that's a nice change.
All right, Mr. General Manager.
So, you all may remember a state grant for facilities that we kind of went back and forth with the state on, I wanted to put it towards bus stops, and we kind of had to pull back from that, and try to find some capital projects, purchases that we could do to support maintenance without adding federal equity to the building. One of
Something you
those,
could travel with.
one of those items was a fuel dispensing system, an electronic dispensing system, that we originally budgeted about, I think, $12,000 or $13,000 for. Well, we got the guy out here and it was more like $42,000. And $29,000 of that was wiring that we could never, is support that we would never take with us. So we have to pull
Get a
back.
long extension cord.
Yeah, we have to pull back from that. And we still haven't worked out, the grant was awarded to us and we have a contract for it, but it did not have any software in it. That we were talking about doing new maintenance software, because they were trying to update their project with FTA. They needed to change their scope with the FTA on trams, just like we would have to do it if we were the direct recipient. Well, we've been talking internally about how we're handling that, and I think we're gonna go to FTA, go to the state with a new laundry list of items that will include the forklift. And so we're gonna replace the fuel system and the software, and there was 1 or 2 other smaller items in there with trying to purchase this forklift, which should save us a good 26, you may have gotten off. About $2,600 a month in operating expense, leasing the current
What's
piece
the
of equipment.
approximate cost of it?
About $55,000. But this doesn't take any local match. The state matched project. So we're gonna work through that with them. And so then, depending on what we do with this maintenance software, we'll probably do that on the 5307 side. So it's just kind of a rearranging of the deck chairs. The big thing is the state has something called letter of no prejudice, which means they can make expenditures on a grant before it gets set up in the system. And so I would like to speed up the process of getting a forklift via that,
So
so.
that then you can end the rental payments.
And I can, yeah, we can save up.
At that price and that rent, it's a very
It will be in there.
good deal. to
Yeah, it's
get.
a great deal, so.
So next year budget,
No, it'll happen this summer,
Oh, this
or
summer?
between
Really?
now and summer. We gotta do it sooner than later, so, we're just working that out with the state. I don't have that settled yet, but we shouldn't have any issues with
And does
that.
that grant sunset like fiscal year?
It probably ends June 30th, but it's one that we'll get an extension to. And it's not a drop dead date, if you will. But I would really like to get that thing on board
Yeah.
sooner than later, so we're working on that.
At least you get a picture of it so you can see their Christmas time, boys and their toys.
Right. Entertainment shuttle, we already talked about, and we'll bring you some more details on what's happening with that to Service Pack. We are looking at making some cost neutral tweaks to it to match up to some desires from the hospitality side of things, and we are getting some funding in return for that, so we'll get you some more details. I got a few other things I need
You
to iron out on that.
expect that funding will then be cost neutral with the service of extending it back across 17?
The operating costs will not change appreciably with these changes. So this is above and beyond.
Not his.
Okay.
So he was trying to say.
Bus stop designation project, we are in the process of engaging locals, city planning, and county planning. We've sent our bus stop guidelines to them. We're also in the process of developing a steering committee for actually citing these things, like we're getting involved with the bike ped committee at the city of Myrtle Beach to look at Kings Highway specifically. They are also trying to roll it into their sidewalk program to improve access to those stop locations, so it's a really good, it's getting off to a really good start with this.
Does
City of
GSAC
Myrtle
have a
Beach.
role in any of our bus stop designation program?
They'll be part of it as well.
I would think that there's just some bright people on that group who would, offer appropriate advice.
Right.
Even at the staff level, from what I've seen.
Yeah. We're also gonna get, I didn't mention this when I was talking about our facilities project. I'm gonna have outsiders do the review of those bids. So it'll be GSATs, City of Myrtle Beach, County, City of Conway, and then maybe one individual from Coast RTA on that review panel. Because I want them all bought into what we're doing on this. And we'll get somebody from Georgetown as well. So bus stop designation from our perspective is really trying to catch up with local planners and getting them up to speed. So our consultants will be doing a presentation to the bike ped committee meeting coming up soon. It hasn't been scheduled yet, but I'll let you know. FMO is basically closed out. We're still working on a resolution to the international Navistar buses that we have parked out back. I have engaged Creative Bus Sales, the people who sold those to us, and they are re-looking at the possibility of trading those out for some vehicles that we can get 4 more years of service out of. That has an impact, and we were talking about it yesterday. I was talking with Tom and Kevin yesterday about how we're handling this longer cutaway purchase that we have a grant open at FDA. I wanna, if we're basically bringing those two newer vehicles back to our fleet, I don't wanna get too caught up in our spare ratio issues. We do have potential for some growth coming up here in our service, but we would be going to, let's see, 18, if you include those with the bigger buses, 18, 19, there'd be 20 buses for an 11 bus pull out.
So you're buying some smaller cutaways and some larger cutaways?
We have a grant open with FTA to buy 3 long cutaways. But I'm hesitating on that because if we're able to make this trade, I'll bring in 2 long cutaways anyway that we weren't, so we gotta kind of figure that out. I also need to try to address trolleys. because those are on their last leg. So more coming up on that, I was just kind of tying it into the FMO. We have until June 28th to come to that resolution, so I have a letter from FTA.
How many trolleys you got?
I'm sorry?
How many trolleys?
3. Are you taking copious notes over there?
How about that green one,
Everything you
that's on
said.
flat legs too?
I'm sorry?
That green trolley, I don't see that one used too much.
Yeah, yes. I mean, it did okay on the St. Patrick's Day parade. They're all usable. The problem with them is that we cannot find, for instance, we cannot find a wiring diagram for those buses. And they've been chopped up, you know, before we got them and then since we've gotten them.
Right.
No schematics at all.
And, I'm sorry?
We can't get schematics at all.
Yeah, so they just need to go away. So we gotta figure out a way to try to figure that out.
The trolleys that Coastal bought look more substantive than the trolleys that we have. I mean, you'd be more of a judge of that.
Yeah,
than
they're
I am.
basically the same. They might be a little longer than ours, but they're on like Freightliner chassis, just like ours. They're very similar.
Okay.
I would like to replace them with regular buses.
I agree.
You know, because they become a little bit more usable in the rest of our service. So along those lines, on May 14th and 15th, New Flyer is bringing a battery-powered bus to Myrtle Beach as a demo. And so I'll try to schedule a time for you all to come out and take a look at it, but I do want the city to look at it and the county to look at it as a potential replacement for our trolley fleet.
Is it a model that you can drive or just look at?
No, we'll be able to drive it. And,
Does it take a lot of infrastructure to charge it?
well, yes, it does. I mean, that is a larger capital outlay, and it's a little bit premature because I would like our maintenance facility to be a little closer.
Right.
Right, you use a lot of
Because it's something you want to use downtown. But the reason why, they said they had it and he's been looking for a date to bring it out here. The reason why I want everybody to see it is because I get the feeling that people really like the trolleys. They like the nostalgia of it.
Yeah.
But those are the people who aren't riding them. And, from a spare ratio and
Right.
usefulness, they don't really do a lot for us.
Well, and down the road, if we're gonna keep the entertainment shuttle and be eating the cost of much of it, you're gonna want to have equipment that can be swapped back into the main fleet
Right.
as efficiently throughout the rest of the year.
Correct.
This is what I hear you saying.
Yes.
And they have hard seats.
Yeah, no, we could replace them with a trolley that's got nicer seating in it, but, I just think that, even if it's a 30-foot bus similar to our New Flyers, low floor, it doesn't have a lift in it, which is another maintenance headache. It's got a ramp, those types of things. It'd be a lot, you put 2 big doors on it so people can get on and off. It would just be a lot better, more efficient, use of our dollars.
Wrap around it.
But let
And you
me,
could do a wrap for the entertainment shuttle,
That's what I'm saying.
specifically, yeah.
well, let me challenge you on this,
Uh-oh.
okay, because, I disagree with you on something that I have to be up front, and you're right about the trolleys. In Myrtle Beach is the tourism, and the image and the trolley, the appeal, the distinction in Myrtle Beach in the summertime when the tourists see something different, you know what I mean, rather than the bus, the trolley going around or something. That is my thought about that. There's something different in that tourism area.
Yep.
That appeal to people sometimes because they need.
So the wrap is important.
Yeah, but like I said, just that if you look at a lot of cities, they have trolleys that go up and down around the cities and stuff like that, in the town. And tourism, but I just threw it out there for you. I mean,
Well, I would like for you to
I mean, it's just a
come take a
thought
look
of
at
it.
this
I mean,
other
you got a
bus.
bus going down Ocean Boulevard, that's fine, but you got a trolley. It seems like people just want to jump on a trolley faster. I mean, that's my thought about tourism. So
Okay.
I'm just throwing something out there because if I'm from another area and I see a trolley bus, I'm pretty much more quicker to want to jump on that trolley than I will on a bus. I mean, that's just me talking.
Well,
Because it's the same thing, but it's just a difference.
understood.
Yeah, I get it too.
No, and I understand the, you know, the nostalgia and the difference, and it's a different type.
I mean, being in Myrtle Beach, I mean, being in, or if you only got one of them, you only have one, would have some effect on the tourism aspect.
Maybe it's transformable. Maybe you've got a piece of equipment out there that you can, with a modest modification, every 6 months you can transform from, you know.
Yeah. Well, then we
open
can
doors
get,
to shut doors.
we can get a larger trolley that has
You only need
better
one.
seats. Well, no, you need two.
Well, I'm just saying, my
You
point
really
is, I'm not trying
You
to,
need three.
I'm not trying to tell you what to do, I'm just trying to throw out, you know, from my experience in Myrtle Beach and knowing how the city operate, I know that people, the city developed, in fact, you saw the paper today, we second number 2 as far as
Bro.
growth. So you look at people that would come to this town, I think the trolley would have some type of appeal. That's just my thought about it.
When
Just-
when I spoke, when I presented to city council,
I was there.
I got a lot of folks on council saying not only did they want the entertainment shuttle to continue, they wanted it to be.
I remember that.
Bigger.
I read it when they said.
So, and I heard that, I said, okay, bigger's great, you know, obviously we're gonna need some
It's it.
funding in order to do that, but I also need to change I need to replace my equipment. And so, whether we do that with trolleys or with something else, it really doesn't matter to me. I want everybody over there to see what the alternatives are. And so that's why I wanna bring in this demo bus.
Well, but I want to be clear on something. Is that I don't try to say anything that I've done my homework. You are the CEO. I'm just a board member, but at the same
Keep
time,
accusing me of that.
I just want to. I'll make sure I'm clear. Is from a tourism perspective. Cause I walked through with trawlers and I seen it look nice. I mean, you know, it ain't not new, but I think you could do. And I understand you're in a dilemma right now.
There is a low floor trolley out there.
Oh, really?
Which wouldn't have the lift on it. Now, that's one thing I wanna get rid of, is the lifts on them. I wanna have ramps. So there are other products out there that we could replace those with. This is just one option.
There may be electric trolleys, there probably are.
There are. So I just wanna start that discussion on what that equipment's gonna look like. So, moving forward, because we gotta replace those things sooner than later.
I can go down in my electric car.
Route match software. We are the lead agency for what are called Tier 2 and Tier 3 users of the route match software, which is what we use to schedule our paratransit system. So we have a pre-proposal meeting on Thursday for anybody who wants to bid on that. But we took over from the state. This is something that the state determined we needed to re-procure. We've had it for a number of years. It's possible that Route Match would be continuing on, or we replace it with some other software. And this is something that the state is going to pay for, depending on how that, you know, whatever happens out of that procurement.
What motivated them wanting us to re-secure to get a new contract?
Well, it's just, the software packages like Sage, you know, our accounting software is sort of in the same boat. You know, FTA has procurement rules, and every time we do a new support agreement, or we have to pay for this year's, you know, like a service agreement for software, you have to do a sole source.
Sole source contract, yeah.
Well, you have to do a sole source justification.
Mhm.
And so you get 10 years down the road, and they like to see it.
And we only believe that it's sole source. Yeah.
So what is tier 1 or tier 2?
Tier 1 were folks who are using the software to schedule fixed route. And I just didn't think we needed that yet. We don't have enough of them pull out to really work. And then scheduling drivers and buses and all that stuff.
We're tier 2 and we use it.
Yeah, and it was
as a
some
backup
department
or-
in Spartanburg that was leading it that decided they couldn't do it, so they put it on Kevin, and Kevin's done a great job.
And what does it mean leading it? Leading it to do what?
We are basically managing the procurement.
Procurement,
The whole state.
procuring agency.
For all the tier 2 and tier 3 recipients. So it's
That's a big
probably
responsibility.
41 or 42 agencies that can buy off of this contract. And we'll actually select multiple providers, so we can get whatever we want.
And do other agencies do other things? Have people been doing this, or is this like a new thing that? like
Well,
local
some,
agencies
some are doing scheduling by hand.
I mean, but other agencies doing like state procurement, like leading state procurement?
Santee Watery led the, tier 1.
But are other procurements like around the state done by agencies, or are they all done by the state? I never heard of an agency doing it.
Yeah, well, it's just a coordination effort more than anything else. You get a little better pricing when you put 41 versions of the software out instead of one, obviously.
I thought the state.
But a lot of it,
I always
is done on
assumed
the
the state.
state contract.
Yeah.
This is one that the material folks didn't want to do.
What's our annual cost?
For route match?
Yeah,
Um,
so he said the state is gonna pick up the cost.
yeah, they're not gonna take care of the annual cost, they're gonna take care of the original outlay.
I see, okay.
So whatever that would be.
Okay.
It's 2,000 to 4,000.
It doesn't matter if we're gonna still continue needing it for my purpose of my question.
So, just let you know that we were doing that.
So how do we use it as a tier 2? What do? You don't use it?
We're just scheduling paratransit with it.
Okay. So we're not
So it's
scheduling
doing
labor
all
or
of the certification, getting all that stuff squared away, keeping track of our clients.
And what does
and
tier
then-
1 do that we don't do?
Tier 1 does paratransit and transit,
Oh.
scheduling transit. So we were originally gonna be on the tier 1, but I was like, we don't need the software for scheduling training, right, fixed route. And I'm not sure why Santee Watery does either, I mean, I don't think their bill is even as high as
Because you
ours.
don't schedule the fixed route.
Well, we do it every 18
Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
and we're doing our run picks. If we were doing those more often and we had more routes, it might be something to look into. Pick and choose here. There's been no movement on our business continuity project. I've been trying to get in touch with Gary over there at, or is it, I always get his name wrong. Gary or Greg Wagner. It's Greg. He and I have exchanged emails and kind of missed each other. We had one lunch scheduled that we had to cancel, but I'll keep moving on that.
Greg is the former police chief from Coastal who took over the busing
Bus.
part of Coastal's operation. We block out Greg's last name, but you know.
Wiesner.
Yeah.
We got through our conflict management training. I have been in contact with Horry County Police on live shooter training, so we're hopefully gonna get that up and running here in the near future. I suggested to them there's a module that's produced by SLED on it, and they're looking into that. And Michelle and Doug attended live shooter training down in Georgetown. That was provided by
I think
SLED.
if you bring Coastal into that, they'd be happy to join that as well.
They
That's a
do,
good point.
SLED has one specifically for buses.
Okay.
Yeah, so, we'll see. Board retreat is scheduled for April 21st. How does that relate to the board meeting? The board meeting's the following
The
week?
board meeting is the, I think it's the
21st.
following week.
No, that's the retreat.
24th, rather, I'm sorry, 24th.
Do we wanna do a board meeting on the retreat day? No. Okay.
But I don't know that we need necessarily, I guess you need a board meeting every
Okay,
month.
the retreat is on the 21st on Saturday, the board meeting is the Wednesday, the
25th.
25th.
To save everybody's time, we could do a short board meeting on the 21st, and just to get scheduled.
Yeah, I agree.
We don't need to do
Yeah.
a full board meeting
Yeah.
right after that.
Yeah.
So,
Same day?
yeah, we'll just do it on that Saturday, and so we need to do the advertising
Mhm.
and get that squared away.
Right. Brian, one thing as you go through this, our packet is missing the object that we have grown to know and love, which is the
Project.
listing of the projects. And,
Yeah.
you know, we don't want to lose that level of accountability either for the board retreat or for any of our board meetings.
My last
Brian
update,
rubbing his face like
my
that.
last update was December.
Yeah,
I was looking at that, we'll get back on
please.
that. So right now, the board retreat,
That's more a matter of board accountability than you, but it kind of keeps you thinking about it too, so.
the board retreat agenda will be a draft FY19 budget. I'm planning on doing a 5-year financial plan for you all that will roll in, how we're handling the new funding. And then we need to spend some time on service expansion and prioritization, you know, what that process might look like.
And I've not heard from other board members other than Bernie about ideas that you would want added. We generated a couple of items at our last meeting. Let's go back before you firm that up and look at those items to be sure.
Okay.
And I'll talk to Bernie as we head out, and I'll send you back a codified email from he and I. I want to run it by Daryl too, but Daryl can see things, but just to lock that down. So I'll do that over the next 2 days. But I don't think Daryl will probably be visual. I've never had one of those.
You'll be all right.
Operate. Probably Monday or Tuesday of next
Yeah,
week.
you'll be all right.
Tomorrow, next day?
You get it.
Cool. So let's plan on by Monday of next week. I'll get that to you.
So, the only other thing on my list, is, we have developed a new employee manual. We've made some updates to that I will distribute to you all just for your own edification. We're also bringing back, an operator's manual, which is a pocket-sized guide on operating procedure. We've redefined accidents, and an accident procedure. We've put in some, new rules as it relates to the run picks, but more importantly, how we fill open shifts on a weekly basis, and you know who gets first priority, and this was something that came out of the employee survey that I did, where we're not distributing those open shifts on what drivers perceive on an equitable basis. So we're trying to put some rules in there that take the subjectivity out of who drives what, and those rules are designed to reduce overtime. And then give people opportunities over the course of week to week.
Has it been long, first time it's been modified?
We modified it once before in my tenure. So there was a May or April 2016, or early 2016.
But not on the same issue.
Yeah, but this time around we edited, we shored up some of the language on how we're maintaining benefits for individuals who are on long-term or longer-term absences, whether it's Family Medical Leave Act or out on, have some medical situation on their own, or it's workers' comp. We've kind of split those two up. Trying to remember the other major, we implemented all our new payroll and timekeeping procedures. Those are in there.
Are we using a time clock yet?
Yeah, we have a time clock. Started this past week ago Sunday. So you've got a time clock, or you can go online and like I do my timesheet online.
Anybody can do them online, or just certain
Anybody?
people?
Well,
Everybody?
if you're an hourly employee, you can only punch in or punch out, but you can do it online, or you can use the punch clock. And you can only punch in or punch out at one of our facilities. But then you can also go online and look at your timesheet. You can go back and get past payroll, which they're not in there yet as we generate data. You can look at your tax information. You can look at your banking information. All that stuff is now online for us. So it's a really nice change.
As you go into April, I'm looking at the accidents of the fixed route. It's pretty darn clear that accidents and breakdowns especially accidents, are heavily a summer phenomenon.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty damn clear that come June, they start to rise, and then they go down by October. I don't see that quite so much about the breakdowns, although there is certainly a block starting in May where the breakdowns have occurred. You might think about some kickoff that is as part of your procedures. You might think about some kickoff that is a prevention kickoff that just draws people's attention come May 1. This is the time of accidents, it's the time of breakdowns, and it's the time that awareness needs to be, heightened times 10. We've got 15 million tourists, coming in here, probably 3/4 of whom are over the next 4 months, because there's just a lot more vehicles on the road. But you might make an event, an authority event about that, invite board members, but, the focus is on accident prevention and, you know, breakdown.
You look at that with safety too. 'cause I
And
know that,
safety.
I brought back from our training and the comment, they have a hot spot in the driver's lounge. So it's a big map of their system, and any accidents go around the
Right.
system map. And whether they're preventable or unpreventable, that's what they've got it labeled,
Right.
with pictures of the accident and then a string to where it was
Where it
in the
occurred.
system.
Right, and I've always thought we should do a X number of days since the last accident, kind of sign somewhere out there, X number of days since the last preventable, but certainly as you go into the next few months, draw attention to this cycle. It would be an important thing to add to your procedures, your employee procedures, both preventable, non-preventable accidents, and then breakdowns.
Okay?
Add that to your list of projects.
One last thing, do you have wellness program in place?
With what?
Wellness program.
Wellness, our insurance, our health care,
You have one in place?
the health insurance folks do,
They
PIVA
do.
does.
It's not in the policy, though, is it?
No, it's not in the employee manual, I don't think.
Doesn't really.
Is there a mental health component to that in the insurance?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the insurance
Keep our
sends
ears
out
open.
notices and we post those
Yeah.
notices and, you know, there are benefit, associated with doing sort of preventive healthcare and those types of things.
Okay.
But, you know, you had said, and we know we can't afford it this year, that one of your primary goals is a safety officer.
Yeah.
Starting this safety prevention, or this safety campaign, kicking it off the end of April, early May, would be a nice lead-in to establishing that priority.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted that person to do is to look at our past, losses, you know, claims. So I've actually requested that information from the insurance fund and have that data, so I'll probably be looking at it and see if I see any
Well,
trends.
you might find people on your staff, drivers included, who show a particular interest in this and are willing to show a particular leadership role in it as well. I know your real goal was to bring in somebody from, you know, a salaried position that does this, but the lead up to that, it's just understandable what happens to traffic in the summer months, but it doesn't mean it's acceptable, or it doesn't mean that there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, we can't, it doesn't mean we can't take extra steps to try to reduce them.
Well, our goal probably should be to reduce by 20 or 30%, just those numbers as we go into this summer. So as soon as you have a clear target, and then we try to improve that.
It's a good idea.
10,000 more vehicles in Horry County means 10,000 more potential crazies.
Well, I think you might want to check on that wellness, because I'm just curious about being in the policy. You might
What
want
do
to
you
check.
mean by wellness?
Wellness is exercise, and this is
Oh, that was.
your money.
Yeah, we've, you're talking about the authority kind of taking up that ball and offering.
The county has that, they just gave awarded last week at their council meeting.
I remember our previous CEO wanted to try to get some money out of the wellness program a while back.
This was called Maintain, Don't Gain, or something like that. It used to be called the Big Loser, but I guess maintaining is all right too. And they got prizes, and there were,
Do?
I don't know,
We work.
people got
I know the
awards.
city has, I mean, I just, like I said, it may seem sort of frivolous, but I mean, if it's something that the insurance is offering, it's something that the employees should be focused on that as well.
Right.
It certainly makes people sharper and more attentive.
I mean,
We've been posting those, notices from insurance, but I'll look into sort of taking a more proactive.
Our drivers have a very,
I mean, if somebody's gonna get a little extra money by losing weight, that would be something extra.
our
Stay
drivers have a
healthy.
tough job as far as wellness. I mean, they're sitting a lot.
I did, when I was in the city, I gained some points from it. You get point system, you get extra days off, and you get little vacation time, and little extra incentive, but it would kind of morale, kind of get morale a little bit. That's what I was looking at.
Okay.
It may not want to do it, but I just thought it would be something to look at. So you never know who might try to challenge that issue. So,
We're closed this Friday? I think I
Yes.
saw that in the paper.
Good Friday.
This coffee, man, ain't no good.
So that concludes the manager's report.
Okay. Any additional questions? We've all been sort of tripping in a little bit, or several of them. Okay, we have no resolutions to approve. We have, I don't really think we have an executive session. I've already kind of discussed what I needed to with Brian on that, but it goes back to tuition benefits, and I think we can wait till Daryl comes in at the next meeting and see if we can address some of his concerns about tuition benefits.
Okay.
And I think his concern is, I think he has been approached, as I have been approached, roundly about that issue. And so the question is, how do we determine who gets tuition benefits and toward what purpose? And is there some measure?
Well, how do we budget for it?
Yeah, well,
And
you don't have a
that
budget
is
for
in
it.
the employee handbook as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be the only thing that I had thought of, but I don't think we need to go. Is there anyone else that needs to go into executive session for personnel issues or contractual issues?
I don't think so.
Any old business? The old business item we opened up in manager's report is clearly the planning for the retreat, but we've already discussed it. Any-
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I have gone in on the calendar and combined the board meeting with the retreat, and I also sent an email for those who don't get the calendar invites.
Could you repeat that now that Mickey's here, because he
Yes.
was the one who raised the question
I
about that.
updated on our calendar, combining the board meeting with the retreat on the 21st and canceling the board meeting on the 25th. And I also sent an email out
And I noticed mine came
about
in,
that too.
so
Yeah, I mean, look,
Mickey, check yours. I
What
know
is your
mine came in.
email address?
Um,
Because you said you didn't get the board information.
I got email from you, over the same thing, but it's Mickey James, 2009.
Did you get anything in the last couple of
Let
minutes?
me see if that's what I have.
When that mine, the one I got canceled, the meeting on the 21st.
Yeah, she canceled it, but she edited something.
I edited to combine the board meeting and the retreat to the 21st.
It says deleted on mine.
Well, I've got an RSVP.
Did you delete the board, the single thing and then add in the double thing? I don't know.
Right.
I'm showing on the 21st, board retreat
Right.
/ board directors meeting.
Yeah, the board directors retreat. Interesting.
The April
Does say
board
remove
meeting is
from calendar.
rescheduled.
I
And it says
removed the board meeting
She
from the
removed the board
calendar.
meeting, but she created a board retreat / board of directors that she sent everybody at 11:16.
It takes a second to update, mine just updated.
Okay.
So it sent out a
Okay, you
cancellation,
got
then
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
redo, and then finally.
I also sent an email, because there are some people that don't get the meeting invites.
Not on the
That's why I
outlook.
sent an email out as well.
Plus the email.
And we're starting at 9 o'clock and ending at noon. Refreshments or snacks will be, and coffee will be provided
I'm
in the morning, but
Yeah, no,
our chairman said we would not have lunch since we were gonna be done by noon, so.
I'm
I
channeling,
can't come here.
channeling previous.
Michelle just accepted, so that's good.
Mickey James, 2009.
I'll check right now and see if I
That's
have
Gmail.
you.
I put Gmail, I'm sorry, gmail.com.
All right. While we finish that up, do we have any announcements?
Yeah, I want to mention that, if I get with you and Brian sometime in the future,
That's what I have for you, so that's where they've been going.
Okay.
but anyway, the reason why I want to get with you guys, because the chamber has, who Brad lives, I know Brad lives, but they have asked me to, get my opinion on what they want to bring in next.
Who has?
Brad Dean.
Oh, yeah, for Brad.
Everybody know Brad Lee, but I'm saying that,
Yeah.
so, then they're gonna bring in a new CEO, but they're gonna have two positions. Other person gonna be a political consultant, whatever it's gonna be. Now just to ask you two guys, kind of talk to me whenever I talk to the search committee, but they got an extra committee.
Okay.
What kind of person we gonna look for as far as the transit aspect? Gotta get some idea when I do talk to them, I can Well, I gotta get with y'all two guys and kind of get some
Wanna do a
ideas.
breakfast sometime the next couple
Yeah,
Saturdays?
that'd be good.
But that'd be good for me, but I do talk to this committee on national level, I can let them know this kind of person we like to have come in here.
Sure.
I'd really like to see a chamber person willing to dedicate some money to the entertainment shuttle, like to this
But
day.
that's what we need to put to the table then.
Why that's not a high commitment.
Well, there's rules on what the chamber can do.
Right.
Their ATAX. It's really a city decision.
On money stuffed in white envelopes.
It is
that work.
number 5 on the prescribed list of 8 projects that ATAX money is eligible to be used on, but
But the chamber gets other money, they get their memberships.
They'll be getting money also from the 1%, hospitality tax.
That's where that hospitality.
That is
Yeah.
for their money.
Yeah.
but that has to be used for exterior, for,
Advertising.
yeah.
Not
market-
market,
market
not
advertising.
They had that, all they do now, trying to renew it.
If there are any, no other comments, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Thanks.
Consider done.